Hi, I'm Echo with Echoes of Nature. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to do a little segment on life cycle of frogs. And I have a frog guest for us today. This is a leopard frog who is facing the wrong way. If you look along his back, he has the spots on him like a leopard, which is how he gets his name. I'm going to try and turn him so you can see the front end, but he thinks I'm the dangerous item. His eyes are up there. Well, he showed you how he jumps. His eyes are up on the top of his head. You notice we have him in a little bit of water because we don't want him to dry out. His ears are the circles right behind his eyes. Those are his tympanic membranes. And he hears really well. He has webbed feet, long jumping legs, as he demonstrated a little bit ago. And he has a pointy nose. He is one that you are going to find around our ponds and streams, and sometimes even into our backyards, because these particular frogs will go out and hunt a little further than the water's edge. And because it is springtime, it is now time for the frogs to start waking up from their winter sleep, and for the boys to find the girls and to later lay eggs. So the males come out first, and they're the ones that are singing. I don't have a spring peeper, but they're the ones that you start hearing the soonest in the springtime, which is who we're hearing a little bit now. They're the ones that sound like the jingle bells. And then after them will emerge the American toads, the leopard frogs, our wood frogs, and they all have different sounds, and you can identify them by their sounds. Now, when you're walking along a trail and there's a drainage ditch or a vernal pool or the edge of a slow-moving stream, you might be lucky and find an egg mass. And frogs will do large clumps of eggs, and toads will do like a string of pearls. And they're really fun to watch and observe throughout the season, to see them hatch and to see the tadpoles go through all their stages. And today we're going to do a little bit about their life cycles. So I have my frog models. These are not in the right order. So I have frog with long tail with the 4 legs, tadpole that has gotten his back legs and still has his tail. My bubble wrap is our egg mass. Tadpole with his little tiny mouth and long tail. And our froglet, which just has the tiniest bit of tail left that will shrink very shortly afterwards. So when the frogs start out, they're going to be in an egg mass. So we're going to put this one out first. And as those eggs develop, the tadpoles are going to be what emerges. And those tadpoles, when they swim, their tails go side to side like a fish. Sometimes they are mistaken for fish and vice versa. And you have to look at them really close. So if you look, they've got a little itty bitty tiny mouth, because as tadpoles, they're going to eat algae and detritus. Their eyes are on the side of their heads, and as tadpoles, they breathe with gills. So they need to stay in the water so that they can pull the oxygen from the water. Now the next stage is that our tadpole, as he's eating and eating and growing, his little mouth is starting to get a little wider, but he's still eating algae at this point, but his back legs have emerged. And he still has that tail to really help him propel through the water. But if you notice his eyes, they're starting to move a little bit toward the top of his head. So that one's our next stage. Following that, our tadpole is going to get his front legs. His eyes are moving closer to the top of his head. His mouth is getting a little wider. Once he has those 4 legs, his lungs have developed. So now he's breathing air just like we do with lungs. But he is still mostly in the water because he still has some changes to do. His final stage, he is a miniature frog. That little short tail has almost disappeared. He is breathing totally with his lungs now. His eyes are more on the top of his head. He's got not a little tiny mouth anymore, but a really big, wide mouth. And now he's not eating algae. He's going to be eating meat, like bugs, small fish, small tadpoles, small frogs. They're not real picky. If it moves, they try and stick it in their mouth to eat it. So when he started out as a tadpole, he was an herbivore. He ate only plant material. But as an adult, he's a carnivore, so he eats meat. And then from that little small frog, he will grow to be larger and larger as an adult frog. Now, I do have an activity on the website, and I'm going to move these guys out of the way for a moment. On the website, there will be a set of sheets that will have the life cycle of a frog. The second sheet is really designed for older kids. I believe first and second grade up, but everybody can definitely do the first page of the life cycle and put everybody in the right order. So I have my paper already set up and cut out. Whoop, one of my tadpoles ran away. Alrighty. So you'll notice it is a cycle, it is a circle. We're going to go round and round throughout the life cycle. We're going to start off with our egg mass, and we're going to put that in number 1. And taking a look at the pictures, think about which one you think's going to go next. Is it going to be this guy with front and back legs with a bit of tail? This guy that's got a much longer tail and he's got his front legs? Our adult-looking frog? Or the tadpole with no legs? So it's going to be our tadpole. And then as he's growing and eating, it's then going to be our guy here that still has a distinct tail, but has started to get legs. And then as he's growing and developing, that tail is shrinking and those legs are becoming stronger and more developed. And then finally, it will be our adult frog. And then the following year, we may be mature enough to actually be able to lay eggs if we're a female the following season and continue our cycle. And because these animals have to lay their eggs in water, they go through metamorphosis. They go through a very big change. The adults can live on land or water. These guys are called amphibians because they lead a double life. I hope you go out and explore your neighborhoods and see who you can find and hear, because they've got some really cool sounds and you can identify them by their calls, and it's really, really neat. I hope you have fun this spring looking for frogs and tadpoles. Thanks so much for joining us today.